How critical are critical minerals? Well, let me just put it this way. They are so critical that the country that maps them, refines them, and ultimately builds supply chains around them can withstand even economic pressure coming from Donald Trump. The country that I'm talking about is China, the hegemon of the global critical mineral supply chain. China does not only participate in this market, in fact, it defines it. Let me just put out the facts for you. It produces over 69% and refines nearly 90% of the world's rare earths. It holds a near monopoly on graphite processing for electric vehicle batteries. It supplies around 80% of the global market for minerals crucial to steel alloys and military-grade armor. It produces over 90% of gallium and refines almost all of it, a mineral vital for advanced semiconductors and 5G technology. It controls 80 to 95% of midstream processing for lithium-ion battery components. In fact, its control of midstream critical mineral processing is so overwhelming that entire industries, from EV batteries to semiconductors to defense systems, depend completely on China. But here is the real question. Did China get this dominance without a cost to the environment? Well, for many in India, the answer would be an unfortunate no. But see, you can't sit in a car, use a smartphone, or rely on S-400s, Rafales, or BrahMos missiles while fighting against Pakistan and pretend that none of this comes with an environmental footprint. Every modern convenience, every national security capability is built on minerals which are dug out of the ground. So here is the uncomfortable truth for all of us. The choice we face today is not between growth and nature. It's between growth with trade-offs or no growth at all. According to the Government of India, Aravalli Hills are host to several critical minerals, which are essential for the economic development of the country. And the country is presently reliant on imports to meet the demands of these minerals. Therefore, these minerals are important from national security point of view. So if we deny mining in such an important and critical area, then it will come at a cost. It will weaken our national security at a time when India is already facing a three-front war situation. It is definitely going to lock us in a perpetual state of imports, and thus we would never be able to become self-reliant. And last but not least, our rupee value will continue to drop against the dollar. So are we ready to compromise on that? So now let's address the elephant in the room, that how come China, which is the largest mining hub in the world, still has a lower AQI in comparison to India? Well, for that, we'll have to trace back the history. China's mining and industrial explosion began in the 1980s. And back then, the concept of AQI did not even exist. But by 2013, satellite data and ground monitoring revealed staggering air pollution in the capital city. In fact, the AQI readings in Beijing went above 750 at times due to particulate matter. And this is not my data. This is NASA's Open Earth data. So environmental damage was severe. Air pollution was severe. But instead of stopping development, China doubled down on its mining, manufacturing, and mineral processing. And now, decades later, the country is investing heavily to control pollution and save its environment. And this shows that environmental recovery is possible, but it takes some time. For China, it took several decades for them to actually control their air pollution. So when we talk about India, in India, critical mineral mining has picked up pace only around 2023 with targeted exploration and lease auctions. It cannot be denied that the government of India has taken multiple steps and measures to manage environmental impacts. In fact, it is trying to strike a balance between its industrial growth and ecological protection. Let me quote some examples for you. The government has opened the nuclear energy sector to private participation through the Shanti Bill 2025. This is going to accelerate India's shift towards cleaner and low-carbon energy. The Aravalli Green Wall project, Plant for Mother, the Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes, which is also called MISHTI, Namami Gange Program 2014, Swachh Bharat Mission 2014, National Clean Air Program 2019, National Mission for a Green India 2014, Nagar One Scheme 2020, Mission Life, which is Lifestyle for Environment 2022, Green Credit Program 2023, Renewable and Energy Efficiency Programs, which is PM Kusum, which is for the solarization of pumps, and Ujala Scheme. And the list goes on. This very clearly underlines that India's approach towards development is not about choosing growth over the environment. It's more about pursuing the growth with environment. Now the question is to the critics, who are arguing that the new definition of the Aravalli Hills will inevitably lead to their complete destruction through mining, because this argument collapses completely under basic scrutiny. First, mining has not yet begun in the ecologically sensitive hill ranges, which are below the 100-meter contour, and existing safeguards and clearances still apply. Second, even if regulated mining is permitted in certain zones, the obvious question is, who benefits from these minerals? Yes, mine owners profit, but these minerals do not disappear into private vaults. They go into our cars, into our smartphones, into our data centers, our electric grids, and most importantly, into chips and components which are used in India's defense systems. So this is not only going to reduce India's dependence on imports, it is also going to strengthen India's national security. And when you're living in a region with Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China as your neighbors, security is no longer optional. It becomes existential. So now let's zoom out on the map. Let's take the case study of European Union. The EU, which once decided to keep its home clean by outsourcing mining, has now enacted a law. This law is called the Critical Raw Minerals Act. Its objectives? To reduce dependency and start domestic extraction. Well, now the question arises, what prompted this change? The strict environmental laws made EU to depend almost entirely on imports of essential minerals. In fact, 100% of its heavy rare earths and 97% of its magnesium needs come from abroad, mainly China. But when did they actually realize their vulnerability? It was during the COVID-19 pandemic, which exposed global supply chain fragilities, while the Russia-Ukraine war raised geopolitical risk concerns. These two times made it clear for Europe that their complete prioritization of environment over strategic mining capacity is not really helping. And this is exactly when they decided to switch to mining. So frankly, the protests that took place against the Supreme Court's new definition of the Aravalli Hills were not necessary, because a growing nation like India cannot afford this absolutism. What India needs is balance, not fear, not paralysis, but the confidence to grow while repairing what this growth is going to disturb. And at the end of the day, the choice is ours. Do we want to learn from China's strategy or repeat Europe's mistakes?